This week on the Road Unfiltered Podcast, we have Chris Ashlee. He has toured with Nate Smith and has also directed music videos for Bailey Zimmerman, Nate Smith, and Lainey Wilson. What up, dude?
Good to be here. Good to be here.
Are you nervous?
Very nervous.
Come on.
But hey, it's gonna be fun.
This is fun. We're just having coffee or something.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly.
We're just talking our stuff.
Yeah.
So, well, let's start out. The reason why I'm doing this podcast, it's just I wanted to get creatives and videographers, photographers, directors, everybody kind of in here just to have the conversation, just to inspire like the new class and new generation of people to, they don't know what they're doing. It's like, this is a good outlet to look at and, kind of learn from, with everybody that's in the business and stuff. Tell me a little bit about your story about, Nashville and getting to Nashville and what you wanted to do here and, all that stuff.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I've been here about 13 years now. Didn't start out video or photo or anything. That wasn't even on my mind. I came here to write music. I've been doing that since, I was a teenager. So that's what brought me here. I just dropped out of school. I was going to Full Sail University out in Orlando. It just wasn't my thing at all. Like I just couldn't do the school thing another, 4 years of it or whatever. So I left, came back home. I was sleeping on my mom's couch, and I was watching the True Hollywood Story on Taylor Swift. That's what kind of got me here. I was watched that. Saw her whole story about how her family had moved them from Pennsylvania or something to out to Hendersonville for her to kind of get going and get her start. So I was like, all right, maybe that's what I should do. So I watched that, packed up my vehicle. A week later, I was here in Nashville. Found a roommate on Craigslist. That wasn't the best idea.
Oh God!
But yeah, packed it up. My mom wasn't too thrilled.
Right.
She was wanting me to kind of stay there and figure something out there. Like every mom, they want to keep their kids around. But yeah, that's how I got here.
And where are you from again?
I was in San Antonio.
Gotcha.
At the time, yeah, that's kind of home.
Are you born and raised Texas?
No. I was born in California.
Gotcha.
But we'd moved before, I was a baby. We'd moved to Seattle. I lived there for 10 years.
Yeah.
Then we
Mariners.
Yep.
Yeah,
got the jersey, got a rep.
Got a rep.
Dude, that was a great time. I was there in the 90s so I got to watch, all the
you got to see
Griffey,
the Griffey era. Yep.
Buhner, Randy Johnson, Edgar Martinez, all those guys.
Yep.
Great time. But moved to San Antonio when I was like 10 or 11, and lived there. Spent my high school years out there growing up. That's pretty much home. That's my whole family's still out there for the most part. But that's where I came from before I headed out to Nashville. Did the music thing. Did that for like 8 years. Didn't kind of get anywhere with it. But
what did you do in those 8 years with the music thing?
I mean, I was writing a lot.
Just like meeting a lot of people and everything.
Yeah,
too.
meeting a lot of people, writing. I made a lot of friends, a lot of connections.
Yeah. That's the way to do it in Nashville.
That was
gotta connect.
Yeah, that was. It was. So what had happened was, my friend at the time, he was a writer over at Warner Chapel, Kalen Green. Mm-hmm. He just one of my closest friends. I was hanging out with him, and he was kind of starting his artist career. And he had gotten an opening slot on Billy Currington's tour.
Oh, nice.
You were with Billy, right?
Yeah,
for a little
I was
bit.
with him for a while.
So that was, his parents had a nice camera. I think it was a Nikon D750.
Uh-huh.
Being close friends, he wanted me out there. I didn't want to be dead weight.
Right.
So I pretty much, not knowing anything, I tour managed and, picked up a camera and would just take pictures, here and there for it. And that's how that whole thing started. It was just completely random, out of the blue. Like I had never had interest in video or photo or anything like that. It was just, hey, his parents had a camera. Like I'll kind of just take pictures if I'm there. So he did that. I think 2 years. He did the Summer Forever tour and then the Stay Up Till the Sun.
God, that's so wild.
Tour.
I think I was on the first half of the Summer Forever tour.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were in Because I think it was a 2-year tour.
Yeah.
That he did.
I left in June of 2016.
Okay, it's literally right before we went out, probably.
Yeah, it was right at CMA Fest 2016 was the last time I worked with Billy.
You may have been out there then on that first one.
Could have been.
What's
What's his name again?
Kalen Green. He was. I know Billy had a few different artists. He had Kalen was opening up. Seth Ennis was opening for a little bit too. Just a bunch of just kind of new guys coming up. But that was the first time. I remember the first one was kind of that first year we did it. It was only like a 2-3 week run or something like that. So it wasn't anything crazy, but that was kind of where I got bit by that bug.
Yeah.
So that next year, like when we were back waiting for him to go out on the road for Stay Up Till the Sun, I kind of started learning getting get my bearings a little bit here and there.
When you did that first tour with Kalen, was it a bus? Were you on a bus or?
No. We were actually in a Cruise America RV.
No, wow.
Yes. I was driving around an RV to get us, and dude, it was the worst time. Like it was winter.
Oh God!
Like we were going through. We were playing. I think we played South Dakota, Dubuque, Iowa, Kansas City. I just remember it
like
was
the worst routing in the wintertime.
It was -7. Like I should not have been driving an RV.
But wait, so you were driving the RV?
I was driving. I got an average of probably an hour of sleep every night.
Oh my God!
It was the roughest.
And that was your first touring experience
ever? Yeah.
Oh my God, man!
It was tough. I remember actually. I ran the RV into a hotel one night. We were checking in somewhere. I think might have been Kansas City, but they just had like a low clearance, a low hanging thing. And I remember we were pulling in and just like nailed it. Like we had his keyboard, I think, was up in the sleeping up in the camper part up top, and just nailed this thing. Like I went in and I didn't want to just like leave, so I went and I talked to the desk guy or whatever, and let him know. I was like, hey, ran my RV right into your building. He was like, it's okay.
It's okay. It's fine.
Like it took a gash out of it.
Oh my God.
But he was so cool about it. They were doing construction or whatever. He was like, it'll probably get fixed anyways. I was like, all right.
This is what happened to the RV.
I think we covered it up nicely. Like I was terrified. I remember I was terrified when that happened because Kalen's dad was covering everything at the time. So he was the one that rented the RV, and like he could have been a little scary, sometimes.
Right.
So I just remember I was super worried. Didn't want to say anything, but we were taking that RV back, gassing it up like right before, and I was like, I finally like broke down. I was like, hey man, like we ran into this hotel while we were out there. It didn't mess it up a ton. Like it kind of put a little dent.
Right.
We were just like, if they don't say anything, like we'll be fine.
Did they ever find out?
No, I don't think so. So
you got lucky there.
I did. But yeah, that's good. That's kind of how it started. Then that second, we went that next year.
Mm-hmm. Still an RV?
No, that one we actually got a Sprinter van.
Gotcha.
Which was nice, but I was still driving everything, so it was rough. But I mean, I wouldn't trade it for anything. Those were some fun weeks out there with your best friends.
Yeah.
So yeah, we did that. That was kind of when I started like thinking about like, okay, like maybe I want to do this.
Yeah.
Because again, I'm like, it was just fun. It was,
So were you doing that full time at that time, or were you like taking other jobs here in Nashville?
No, like I was still trying to write, so I'd write, as much as I could during the week with friends. But I was waiting tables, bartending for the most part, and it just got to a point where I was just kind of over it. I figured like if I want to I wanted to be in music, I wanted to write music. That was what I'd always wanted to do. But if I'm not going to be able to do that, I was like, I needed to find something, within that realm, or that's going to keep me around music. Because I was just getting burnt out, bartending, 45 hours a week. Like you don't have time when you get home. You don't want to write, or anything. You're just burnt out.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how that went. I literally just quit. I was like, all right, if I'm going to do this, basically, the only way I'm going to do it 100% is if I'm, focused on it 100%. I didn't have the money. It was not a smart decision, to leave, that money behind or whatever, that kind of stability. But, again, that was kind of just the way I work. That's how, I've kind of always done things. If I set my mind to just one thing, then usually I can figure it out.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of got rolling with that. Just quit my job. And then I was shooting these little small showcases here in Nashville.
Where'd you get the camera from?
That I was still using Kaylin's parents' camera. They were nice enough to let me have that camera. So I was still working on that D750. Didn't have any good lenses. I think I was working off a kit lens. Like, it was terrible for low light photography and everything. So I had to make do with that. But I started shooting these small showcases. At the time, they're called Nash Noise. It was a buddy of mine, Alan Geiger. He had this artist company called Artist Noise. Basically, he helped develop artists, and he was managing a couple at the time, and he was doing these little showcases I think once a month over at the Back Corner Cafe. So he that was another thing actually that helped. So all of these connections that I had built, songwriting, all these doors that I couldn't get into, like for music, were suddenly just thrust open when I was doing something else. So that's everybody found out, like, oh, you do photo video? Like, oh, you're like, yeah, I'm trying to do that. And so all of a sudden it just kind of, like, everything worked. Like everything I tried to do in that vein, like, kind of worked. Like, doors were opened, and it was kind of very much a, when life hands you lemons kind of thing. Yeah. Like, it was just an opportunity that came my way that started working out. So I just kind of ran with it.
Yeah.
But Alan had a very instrumental part in all of that. He's the one that was kind of helping me out, giving me those small opportunities that kind of helped me cut my teeth, with the photo video world. But, I did that for, I think, 5 or 6 months. During that time,
that would have been 2017?
2000
timeline this a little bit.
I think 2017, 2018.
Gotcha.
I think is when it was end of 2017, like October, September. That was when I was doing those showcases. It was just, take photos. Basically, he'd have these artists come play this showcase. I think it was 3 or 4 each one, and to entice them to come play, they would end up getting pieces of content, in return. So all the pictures that I took of them, and these recap videos that I would do of the event, they would get them. They'd be able to put them on their socials, use them for whatever they needed. Yeah. So did that. And at that time, I was also pestering, like, while we were out with Billy Currington, I had met Brian Hillman, and he was the assistant. The assistant.
And he's with Walker, right?
He's with Walker.
Yeah.
So he was assistant tour manager for Billy at the time. So I was just, all I remember is, like, during this time that I was shooting these shows, like, I knew I wanted to be out on the road. That was just, something I'd always wanted to do, ever since I wanted to be a musician. And it just felt like just unattainable. Like, you couldn't get it. So I was pestering him on Instagram, like, probably 5 or 6 months. Like, shout out to Brian, for putting up with me. But Brian's just a good dude. Like,
oh yeah, he is.
Great guy.
Yeah.
And finally, I think after like 5 or 6 months, he had Walker. He was with Walker at the time. Like, I had met up with him. He had started tour managing Walker. And this was early. This was like, Walker was just like You Broke Up With Me was just happening.
Wow.
So pestered him for a while. Eventually he finally hit me back and was like, hey, we're doing a 2-night stand at the Mercy Lounge in Nashville. So he was like, I think the label had already had somebody there to come shoot the shows, but he was like, if you want to come do it for free, you're welcome to. I was like, absolutely. I was like, this is my shot to actually go shoot a real artist. Yeah. Trying to get this thing rolling, in that regard. So I went there, I shot Mercy Lounge for 2 nights. And I just remember I stayed up all night.
Just editing?
All night. Like, I was up till probably 5 in the morning.
Amazing.
got him photos. Like Walker loved the photos, that I'd give him at the end of each show each night. And then, stayed up all night after that second show. So editing a recap video for him so that they could wake up to it. And I just remember that next morning I got a text from Brian about, and I think it was a video of Walker watching the recap video, like on his bus, and just loved it.
Awesome.
So from that point, Walker had asked me, they were like, hey, what are you doing? Would you like to come on the road this weekend? And I was like, absolutely. Like, this is I was finally getting my chance to,
right.
Kind of get out there and get on the road. So I did that.
So was that the first bus tour?
That was the first time I was ever on a bus.
Okay.
With Walker.
You got to tell the story about the first time on the bus.
It was.
Was it intimidating?
It wasn't intimidating. I was very excited.
Yeah.
Like, cause again, like I had always dreamed of being on a bus.
Yeah.
As a musician. All growing up. So it was kind of just like one of those just moments, like you take it in kind of thing.
Yeah. Because I feel like when an artist gets a bus, it's kind of like, okay, we've made
big
it.
deal.
Yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. In my head, I'm like, I might have been getting paid, very little, but at the end of the day, like in my mind, I was like, dude, I'm here, I made it. Like, don't blow it, kind of thing. Right. So just being in the bunk, like actually getting in the bunk, like when you're laying in there and you're just like, holy crap,
yep.
like, this is happening. That was my first experience with it. So shout out to Walker. Walker's an incredible human. Like, love.
I've heard nothing but great things. I'll never forget the one time I had a run-in with Walker was at the ACM Awards in Dallas. I think we were doing a rehearsal or something, and I was wearing a pair of Jordans like I always do. And I'm like walking, and he's walking kind of parallel, and he's like, "Hey man, great shoes."
Yeah, he's a sneakerhead for sure. Yeah. He had always had like some new pair of LeBrons or something, something on. That was his wardrobe, like his show outfit. He wore basketball shoes.
So flip it back to when your first weekend on the bus, like when you got on and like your gear, because everybody I've talked to, they're just like, oh man, I didn't know where to put things. I didn't know how to open a bay, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what was that experience?
I had everything. I had everything in a backpack, like a low pro like backpack that I was carrying around. So I just kept it in my bunk. But he was at that time. He was on one bus. Like he was running a pretty like small crew, but big for one bus. Like it was a lot. But it was just kind of one of those surreal things. Like when it happened. Yeah. But shot that first weekend.
Where did that tour go that weekend? Where was
that weekend? I think we were in. I think we went to like Myrtle Beach. Mm-hmm. I think we played House of Blues in like
House
Myrtle
of Blues,
Beach.
Myrtle Beach, yeah.
I think that's the only one that's like really standing out, just because I remember that venue is just so.
Oh yeah. Right behind it with all the alligators.
Yes,
and everything.
Yeah. Yep. That's it's a very crusty looking place.
Exactly.
A lot of the House of Blues are.
Yeah.
But that was went out there for that weekend. It was not a guaranteed thing. Like I wasn't getting hired full time. It was mostly a trial run.
Right.
That's how a lot of it goes, in this business. It's like they put you out there, see how you kind of fit within that camp,
how you mesh with the artist and all that stuff too.
Exactly. Yeah. And then they make their decisions. But he wasn't looking for anybody full time at that time. But I remember I was out there, and while I was out with Walker, I got a phone call from Boschok at Morris Hyam. Mm-hmm. She was day-to-day for Michael Ray at the time.
Gotcha. And
again, Alan Geiger, he was in a completely different meeting, I guess, talking to them about some other stuff. They had asked for a recommendation if they had anybody for for tour photography or video. He recommended me, and so while I was out with Walker on that very first run, I got a call from them for Michael, because they were looking for a full-time videographer. So since the Walker thing wasn't going to be a full-time thing or anything, it was just kind of a here and there. I went and did a trial run with Michael in Navarre. I think Navarre, Florida, Navarre Beach or something.
Gotcha.
went and did a one-off with him that next weekend.
And how'd it go?
Incredibly well.
Yeah.
Like, I actually met Sam. Like, we'll talk about Sam, but Sam was with Jimmy Allen at that time.
Gotcha.
And Jimmy Allen was opening that show.
Gotcha.
So that was the first time I met Sam Aldrich. And I actually met Brennan.
Oh, no way.
Brennan Williamson. He's with Keith Urban right now.
Yeah.
But Brennan was he lived in the area. And I think he was just there shooting. I remember he was just like asking me questions like, here I am. I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing really yet. But I just remember it was the kind of that point in time where tour video and photo was like really becoming a thing.
Yeah.
So I just remember telling him, like, or we were talking, just shooting the shit, and I was like, oh, dude, you got to get to Nashville, because he was just asking about that whole life and everything. But yeah, it's funny, that show that I met Sam and Brennan.
Wow.
And then now Brennan, obviously he ended up moving a couple of years later, and now he's doing his thing, crushing it.
With Keith Urban.
I know.
It's great.
Yeah.
His stuff is awesome.
It's just wild. It's a small world. But yeah, shot that one show. I think I got the call like the next day. They were like, hey, you're hired. Like, Michael loved it, everything. So that was the first time where I was like, okay, this is what I do for a living now. Yeah. And I mean, it came in.
And what'd you think about that?
I was thrilled.
Yeah.
I was so stoked. Just because I had it rough, like trying to make any money or make it in music or anything in any sort of capacity. It was just a tough go. I was actually about to start. I remember laying in my bed before I got that call or that text for Walker to go shoot the Mercy Lounge. I was like, I had 2 weeks of money left, I think.
Oh, wow.
In my bank account. So I was like, all right, I got to go look for another serving job, somewhere. So I was like fully prepared to do that. And then literally that next weekend I'm on a bus with Walker.
Amazing.
And then the next week I'm out with Michael, and then I'm full time, and
Amazing.
That's what I do.
Amazing.
So it was a whirlwind. And I started with Michael. The most surreal part of it was that next week. It was the end of March was that one-off, and then that first week of me being on the road with Michael was the ACM Awards in Vegas. So, and Michael was very, the job with him wasn't just like, oh, go shoot show photos and everything. It was very much like, hey, like lifestyle, like
Gotcha.
Shooting every day, like shooting all the activities, like getting normal photos, getting show photos. Like it was kind of like you're attached to his hip pretty much.
Yeah.
So it was very it was much more involved, that gig was.
Right.
And so I just remember I was at the ACM Awards like 2 weeks before. Didn't know what I was going to do.
Right.
Like thought I had to go.
And here you are.
And all of a sudden I'm in the radio row that they do in all those places. Like so I was with him during that in that room, and I remember just like Brooks and Dunn walking in, Reba, like Garth Brooks, like I'm 2 feet from him. All these people that I knew, grew up watching everything. It was one of those moments where you're just like, holy shit, like where am I?
I know. And we've had that conversation with a lot of people on this podcast about just how you get put into these positions of like, wow, there's so-and-so, there's so-and-so. It's like, wait, where am I?
Yeah.
This isn't real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was like living in Nashville. I mean, you see those people all the time.
Yeah.
Like Tin Roof or whatever, Whiskey Jam, like you're always around those, so it's never like. But the mystique of having like a Tim McGraw, like 2-3 feet from you, is like it's legendary. A little different. Yeah. It's a little different than hanging out with the other guys or the people who are doing it now or whatever at these bars. So so that was a moment, and I remember actually Walker walked in to that radio. It was just like he saw me from across the room and just screamed my name. It was just like Chris, like, and I was
awesome.
Just I was out there with Michael at the time, but I was a week removed from being out on my first run with him. So that was a cool moment. But
when was that? 2018.
That was 2018.
18.
When I was
where was the ACMs that
was
year?
it? No. It might have been 2019, actually. Now I think about it.
Were the ACMs in?
They were in Vegas.
In Vegas. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Was it still MGM?
Yes.
God, I loved it when the ACMs were at MGM.
Yeah, I remember just that walk. I remember that walk.
Oh, man.
Because we were staying in the towers.
Yeah. I loved it there. You know, because everybody could go to the awards, and then like a lot of the industry people would just go to like the center bar in MGM, you know, hotel.
Yeah.
But now they have it, or they had it at the, you know, Allegiant Stadium for a second. And it's like, oh, you got to drive over there, and then you got to drive somewhere, and everybody was staying in separate hotels. It's just, it was a cool industry thing. I felt like everybody that like the industry and touring people, it was like really cool for everybody to kind of be together again in like one hotel and just like being able to reconnect.
That was a cool thing too about it, is that everybody you know in Nashville, it's like you just they just pick them up and everybody transplants to Vegas for a week.
Yeah.
So you like when you're in the running through or the hotel or you're in the casinos, you're just running into everybody you know.
It's awesome. I loved that.
Yeah,
I love that.
I miss the Vegas award shows. I know now they're doing them all different places, but the Vegas one was a fun experience.
This is like they're choosing Texas.
I know. Yeah.
You know,
I haven't gone to the ones in Dallas.
Yeah, either have I. Either have I. I've only been to the one when they did. Did they ever do ACMs here? I can't remember. I don't think I've ever been to ACMs. I know
here. They did like CMAs. CMTs were always here.
And CMTs, yeah. And now CMTs are in Austin.
Yeah.
It's wild. It's crazy. I mean, it's cool, you know, but you got to travel. You got to travel now to go to the awards.
I know. Yep. All the time. Yeah.
So then pick it up from ACMs from now you're with Michael Ray.
Now I was full time with Michael Ray. That was, you know, my first taste of, like I was saying, just full time on the road. It was great. Michael's awesome. Like he was a great person to work for. Nothing bad to say about him. Just a really good dude. I loved it. Like it was a great time. Like it was, you know, every city or every night a different city. Like I'd never kind of lived that life before, living out of a suitcase. And Michael kept me busy. Like he was kind of just having, like, he was really having like a big bump. Like, I think it was the one that got away. I think it was his single at the time. So it was a multi-week #1. Mm-hmm. So he was kind of on fire at that moment. So, I mean, I was working 29, 30 days out of the month, I remember.
Wow.
And it was just, again, just kind of plucked out of this. Like, I'm never doing anything to all of a sudden I'm everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
And I did that with Michael for about 6 months. I think I was on the road with him. Mm-hmm. And then moved on to Carly. I was with Carly Pearce for like 2 or 3 months, just for she was opening for Jason Aldean at the time.
Now, was it because of Michael you met Carly, or is that?
Yes. Yeah. Gotcha. So like obviously Carly would be out there all the time, like on the road. They did a lot of shows together.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how I'd, you know, come to meet her.
Right.
So I ended up taking, you know, if she didn't have her person with them at the time, like I would shoot her show and everything. So at that time, whenever I left Michael, I was just kind of wanting just something different. Yeah. So they brought me on for a few months for that Aldean tour. She was opening, and Kane Brown was second at 3, and then
how was
Jason.
It working with Carly? Was it because I know like Michael would like work you hard, you know?
It was different.
Because I would imagine like going to, you know, you're coming off of 2 male artists going to a female artist.
Yeah.
You know,
it was 2 very different vibes. Mm-hmm. Michael's was just kind of constant, like just great time, party. Every night was, you know, just a hang. Right. To where Carly's was very much, or she was a lot more reserved. Her band was it was a lot more, I don't know just how to say it, not like more professional. Obviously all those guys are you know, very incredibly professional, but it was just 2 different vibes. Like her camp, everybody in her camp just felt like, you know, they had their thing. You know, a lot of them were doing other things, like other work, kind of like, you know, that they would do on the road while they were, that they did back home. But it was 2 very, very different vibes. And I love the Carly camp too. Those are all good dudes too. Yeah. I've never had an experience on the road, like with anybody's camp, that's been like weird.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
You know,
We're lucky like that.
Yeah, it's.
I feel like I've never had a bad issue.
No,
you know,
yeah,
or a bad camp. You know,
Yeah,
but I've
everybody's
heard
always
I've
great.
heard stories. Artists
heard,
to be remained nameless. But that's a great thing. We have been lucky to be able to work with such great artists. You know. So then you were with Carly.
Yeah. After the Carly gig was COVID.
Gotcha.
So this was the end of 2019. I was out with Michael and her for 2019. That was a rough time, I remember.
And COVID hit.
We already know holidays are not the easiest time.
Yeah.
For people who do what we do anyways.
And Chris and I have talked about this just today. It's just like, all these tours shut down, towards the end of November into December, and everybody's kind of like, oh, there's no work in January. It's like, are we good? What are we doing next year?
You doubt yourself, you second guess everything. It's like, you think you're trash. It's like, and then all of a sudden February hits and
it's like,
you never have a day off again.
Yeah. Then all of a sudden it's December and you're like, holy shit, that year just went by really fast.
Yeah. So COVID had hit that December, that January, I think. And so everything touring shut down.
Yeah.
And I had always had, after I had done the road thing that year, like I like wanted to do more. Like I wanted to, like, directing really piqued my interest.
Right.
I remember Justin Clough was somebody that I had like looked up to throughout that.
Director.
Really, really, really great. But his trajectory was a lot like that. I had met him and Kalen were actually good buddies. So I had met him, probably it was 2015, 2016, something like that. Was the first time I had met him. He was with G-Eazy at the time.
Oh, wow.
Doing all his road stuff. So I just remember, like, that was somebody, like, that Kalen really liked, the content that Justin was putting out. So it was somebody that I could, like, look at and be like, okay, hey, like, these are the things I need to be doing. Like, because his stuff was great. Oh, yeah. I mean, all of his road stuff too was just high quality stuff. So he was a good guy to look up to during that time. And, I'd watched his trajectory and saw that he had started moving into, directing music videos.
Yeah.
So that was just kind of something that piqued my interest. I was, songwriter, songwriters, storytellers, like, and that was just kind of another vein. And it was something that had a lot more room for growth, like, and just another challenge. Like I feel
like 2020, when it shut us down from touring, it's like it kind of shoved everybody into a different way of, like, a different creative thing, like directing, or producing, or DP. It's like everybody kind of got shoved into, like, they had to find a different outlet, in a way. But then I feel like 2020 was busy too for content creators.
It was. I remember the beginning of 2020. That sucked.
Because we had no idea what this was and how long, and everybody was like, "Oh, it's just going to be 2 weeks." And,
we're just, and then tours started getting canceled left and right.
Oh,
and then the biggest tour, I remember, I think it was like Luke Combs, like, canceled his tour, and I was like, "Oh no, like, we're in trouble."
Yeah.
So I remember the first half of 2020 was not good. Nobody knew what to do with it, and then I remember, like, live streaming.
Yes.
Started picking up for artists. And that was kind of where everybody was like, okay, we need to do content.
Yeah.
And, like, I think 2018, 2019, that was like being a tour videographer still wasn't it wasn't a thing that everybody had.
Yeah.
And I think 2020, like, changed that.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Because at that point, everybody needed content.
Yeah.
Daily.
And I felt like it shifted creative for a videographer and a photographer. It's like, oh my God, you got to learn how to be a live stream director.
Yeah. It'd be like a Swiss Army knife, pretty much. Like, you had to do it all.
Exactly. And it was actually kind of cool because it kind of brought us, unfortunately, it brought us away from touring, but it pulled the touring aspect out to learn different things too, which I feel like some of these things that we learned in 2020, now we take with us here in 2024. You just, you know, it's like we could do hey, you want to do a live stream tomorrow? Cool. We got that.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. We figured it out. Yeah.
Ask us in 2019. We'd be like, no.
Yeah. Wouldn't even want to touch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was that time. I mean, that was a rough year. And then I just remember that was when I was like, okay, if there's ever a better time to pivot, like it's now.
Yeah.
So I remember I worked towards that. I got on, I had started working with a label for the first time in 2020. Like during the pandemic, there was, I can't remember the record label, 1RPM. I think 1RPM,
Gotcha.
their distribution for the most part, but they had just started a record label here in town. And it was the guy who was running it, Mickey Cones. He was somebody that he actually recorded my first
engineer, producer.
Yes, yeah,
Mickey Jack Cones.
Yeah, Mickey Jack Cones. Yeah,
love that dude.
Yeah, great guy.
Yes,
he was doing. He had just opened this label. He was running the label at the time. Verge Records is what it was. Sorry, 1RPM owned it. It was called Verge Records.
Gotcha.
They were looking just for content for their few artists that they had. I think they signed Trace Adkins, and then there was there's a pop band called Kid Politics that they were shooting a couple music videos with, and they had asked me to come out and do BTS.
Nice.
On that set. I remember that was the first time I actually met Paul Williams too.
No way.
Yeah. He was gaffing that set just all by himself.
That's so funny.
We went
as he could too.
Yeah, I know. We were out in dude, I just remember we were in Watertown. We were shooting, I mean, at the horse ranch.
Gotcha.
They were shooting something there.
Yeah.
So that was my first time like working like outside of the road doing this kind of stuff.
So it was a music video set.
Yeah, it was a music video.
Do you feel like you learned a lot being on that music video set?
Yeah. I was soaking it up.
Yeah.
It was
because that's like free education right there.
Yeah, that's kind of how I took it. Was I'm going there, I'm shooting BTS, but I was like, I'm gonna learn everything.
Yes.
And that was kind of the moment where I was like, okay, I can do this.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to try it. Like before that, it was more of a dream thing, just kind of like oh, I think I can do this,
right.
But when you see it like being done and the way it was being done, it was a very loose, like run and gun kind of operation. Not loose like in that that sense, but I mean it was just very just like laid back.
But it was still the creation of a music video too. So
it was really cool seeing those guys work.
That's what I always say. It's like every time I talk to people about like getting into this, it's like and if you want to be like a video director, get on set, shoot BTS, because I learned a lot from that. You see the interaction of a director and a DP, and you see the interaction between a DP and a gaffer and like all that stuff. And it's like, that is priceless education right there. You are learning from the actual source of it happening right then and there. Yeah. That's huge.
Yeah, it was.
It's like you gotta do it, shoot it, pay attention, see what's going on. You know, but I've always been work the best, like hands on, soak up as much knowledge as I can. Rather than like sitting there learning it from a book or anything or from a classroom. Like just put me in there. Is kind of the best way I work. But yeah, I just remember I was with these guys. It was Troy Jackson was on it. Oh yeah, okay.
Troy was he was first AC, but they had their little crew, and it was Dalton Snedden, I think is his last name.
Gotcha.
He was the one that was directing it and doing everything. So, but
who was DP on
it? It was, I can't remember his name. If I remember, I'll.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was when I was like, okay, this is what I want to do.
Right.
Like that was when you see it for the first time, when you're there, you're on set. Like it's just different. And like I felt like, okay, like this is what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
So I had worked a little bit with Mickey Cones. Like they were just getting this kind of label going up. So I was doing a lot of BTS stuff for them. Shot some like BTS on Trace Adkins video that he was doing. So again, it was just like every opportunity I had to to kind of just soak up as much knowledge as I could.
Yeah.
While I'm on these sets, that's what I was doing, especially during a time where like I didn't know what was coming next.
Happen,
yeah, like we were all just kind of trying to figure it out. Didn't know when it was going to end, like we said. So that was kind of that. The first half of 2020 was what I was doing, just here and there. I mean, it was nothing. I'd have a project, once every like 2.5, 3 months, like where you'd go make, $400 to shoot BTS. It was nothing. But that's really, again, that's where I figured, or where I found out that's what I want to do is kind of,
you had the bug.
Yep. I got bit by that bug.
Yeah.
And then just started going down that lane. And then luckily this was where it was August of 2020 where kind of everything changed for me. Again, Alan, I owe a lot to Alan Geiger, by the way. Like Alan, if you're watching this, I appreciate you. He's somebody that's just always been kind of in my corner. Mm-hmm. And anytime somebody was looking, for something, like he'd always recommend me.
Right.
And that was, again, he had recommended me, Chief and Simon at the Core Entertainment. They had just started this management company. Mm-hmm. Their first artist was Emily Weisband, who's a big time, one of the best writers in town.
Yeah.
I remember I'd, watched, showcases of her like years ago, like 2013, 2014.
Right.
Watching her play songs. But anyways, Alan had hit me up and said, hey, these guys need some acoustic videos for Emily Weisband. They're, it was a new company. So I was like, yeah, it was like, sign me up. Like I had nothing to do. So I went in and I shot these, just acoustic videos. She was in the studio, with another writer producer. Went in, shot 3 of them. And I just remember like Chief and Simon walked in. Like I think I used like 2. I rented these, I had like 2 Titan tubes, like, just like, right. Just to make it look just like,
right.
I still didn't know what in the world I was doing.
Right.
Like, it was just like, oh, let's make it cool, like looking with color,
right.
whatever. So shot those. I remember they had
walked in. Did you do it all yourself?
All by myself, yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, just on my little, I think I was shooting on a Nikon Z6 at this point.
Right.
Shot those videos. They thought it looked great. They came in, or watched it, showed them some footage. They were like, oh, this looks great. They were like, they're like, Emily's shooting a music video tomorrow for her single. They're like, do you want to come shoot BTS? I was like, absolutely. Like,
I know where
whatever.
This is going to lead.
Yeah. So that next day I was on set of another music video. Again, just like learning, soaking up. And then this was a big one. Like this was a large scale production. So way different than what I had been on before. But basically they were just like, shoot BTS for her. And in between, she had a bunch of outfit changes for this video. It was for Dumber, for a song called Dumber. But they wanted the label. She was signed with Warner Records in LA. They had wanted some looks of her in each outfit. Mm-hmm. So we would go out and do just like little mini like photo shoots, like literally 2 minutes.
Right.
Like we didn't have a ton of time in between takes. So we'd go out, I'd do these little mini photo shoots. I'd get on my computer, immediately edit, as best I could, as fast as I could, and get them turned in. Like that was the big thing. Like early on is like get this stuff to people as quick as possible,
exactly, as
good as possible, to just help help them like you or whatever. Yep. So did that, and I just remember Chief and Simon had walked over to me with like texts that they were getting from the label, just like blown away by the photos.
Amazing.
And I was just like, that feels good, obviously.
Exactly.
So I was like, all right, cool. So, did that. Again, we had a great experience working together. So they were like, hey, tomorrow we need a photo shoot for this new, duo we're doing, or that we just signed. And so that next day I was like, okay, cool. Like I was like out shooting, just like initial photos, like initial promo photos for, this group After Midtown that they had just signed. And, it just kind of, and then they loved those. And then they were like, hey, tomorrow we're shooting a music video for After Midtown. They're like, we need BTS. And I think it was like 5 days in a row.
Wow.
Where they were just like, hey, we need somebody. And then at the end of the 5 days, they're like, all right, you're our guy.
Wow,
like,
that's great.
And I mean, I owe everything to Chief and Simon. Like they're the guys that, you know, you'll get promised a lot of things in this town.
Right.
You know, people be like, oh yeah, if you know, you have goals you're working towards. They'll be like, oh yeah, I'll help you get there. Like,
talk
do
is
this,
cheap,
do this,
man.
yeah,
Talk
do
is
this,
cheap.
do this. They were the first people ever to put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah.
I was like, I remember they were, this was like maybe like a month later, but Emily was, she was really getting going with her record label, and they wanted to do some lyric videos for a couple of her songs. So they asked me to write a treatment, and I remember I was like, I didn't even know what a treatment was. I had no idea.
Right.
I was on, I think I was playing Fortnite with some buddies, with Joey Russ. Joey Russ, he manages, he works with like Kane Brown and manages like Restless Road. He was telling me like what a treatment was.
Right.
Pretty much like while I was playing Fortnite. So they were like, yeah, just write us a treatment for this lyric video for Emily, for her song, Out of This Car. And I was like, cool. So I wrote up a treatment, you know, Googled like what they look like or whatever, tried to figure out, just try to make it look cool.
Yeah.
Turned in that treatment, and they were like, well, this sounds like a music video. And I was like, well, if you'll let me shoot a music video, I was like, I will absolutely shoot a music video.
Amazing.
And they were like, okay, like, you know, they're like, stand by pretty much. And they went to the label. The label was, I know they were probably, if I remember, a little iffy, you know, first time director. Yeah. You know, they kind of like, you know, it scares them a little bit. Right. But I think they did it, they kind of gave like a lower budget. They're like, all right, well, if he can do this for, I think it was like two videos for like, I think it was like $7,500, something like that. They're like, you know, then cool, go shoot the music videos. And that was, I was like, absolutely. I was like, for me, $7,500 at the time was just like, oh my gosh, like, like somebody's gonna give me that much money to go shoot a video, like, so,
and do what I love to do.
Yeah. And I remember, so it was Sam Aldrich, the guy that I had met out on the road. I remember he had an Ursa, like a Black Magic Ursa.
Nice. Yeah.
That he was doing, and he was wanting to be a DP. And I remember like we had talks, and I remember that he was cheap. He was like, oh yeah, I'll come out and shoot it for like $300-400 or something. Right. Like with the camera. I was like, okay, it's like we could, you know, shoot with this camera or whatever, and you know, I could have a DP with me. As Sean, I had also hit up Sean O'Halloran. So rewind. While I was with Walker, we had actually shot like a very small scale music video for his song "Don't Let Her." That I had asked Sean, because Sean was somebody that I had kind of gone to. He was with Swan Brothers, I think, at the time, but he was very helpful.
That's how I met Sean. Swan Brothers on Carrie Underwood tour.
Yeah, he was just somebody that I would like kind of go to for advice or guidance, because I was when I was just trying to get rolling or get into the business or whatever. So he was somebody that whenever Walker Hayes had wanted, you know, just a small video done, like I had went and hit up Sean, and we kind of tag teamed that project together. But anyways, fast forward back to this to Emily. We had I brought them on to like co-DP. Right. So it was just us three. I think we had actually decided to forego using that Ursa, and I think we rented a red Komodo. This was right when like Komodos had just like come out. We rented it from Rent-A-Camera. And so it was just us three. Like
I remember that was the car video, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
and then like didn't Sean do like a lot of sky replacement in that or something?
He did some VFX work in that. Yes. It looked like it was something out of Star Wars. Right. I mean, it was so cool.
Right. Go on.
And but yeah, so it was just me, Sam, and Sean out just running around Nashville we had like this cheap Matthews car mount in this Komodo. We didn't know what we were doing. We didn't even know how to use the Komodo. Like, we were so lucky that the footage came out looking as decent as it did. Because, like, again, like, we just didn't know what we were doing. But, again, we were just out there just trying to do our best, you know, or, you know, this was our opportunity kind of thing. So, yeah, we shot that music video for Emily, and went well. Like, the label loved it. Emily loved it. You know, the Corps loved it.
And I think I remember Sean, like, reaching out to me, like, asking me for some gear or something for that shoot.
Oh, probably 100%. Yeah. We were, I mean, dude, we were shooting with one light. We like an aperture, like I think probably like an aperture 150 or something.
It was
like,
probably mine.
No,
I don't know.
Have been.
I can't remember what it was.
Actually, I think it was Rent-A-Camera, because I remember we had gotten like a V-mount or gold mount battery to power it, because we needed it like on the go, and it kept cutting out on us like every take. And we were like, what's going on? Like, they gave us this, you know, crappy light. Like, obviously we had no idea that there wasn't enough power to power the dang light. Like, we thought that we were getting, you know, screwed. But yeah, it was just one of those videos, like, I just won't forget.
Yeah.
It was just the first time, like, you're out there with your buddies, just like having fun, like doing it. Like, I remember we had the time of our lives, like shooting that thing. But that was kind of how I got rolling. Like, from that point, it was pretty much anything Emily ever needed. Yeah. Like, we were shooting her videos. So we ended up doing a few more. Did one with Karen Fairchild was on one of her songs, Butterfly. We got to shoot that. That was a really cool experience.
Yeah, I remember that.
Shooting with Karen. Yeah, I think we talked about that a lot, because you'd done some work with Little Big Town, right? Or with Karen?
No, not really. I mean, I knew the Little Big Town people from when they were out on the road with Keith Urban way back in the day. And, you know, they just became friends throughout so many years of just, you run into each other. That's this town again. You know, you're just running into each other, the familiar faces. But I remember when you did that, because I think you rented camera for me.
Yes. Yeah, we did. Yeah. We rented a camera
because that was
from
Larkin, wasn't
times.
it? Was that Larkin on that? Yeah.
Larkin was Steadicam. That was the first time I worked with Larkin. Yeah. Larkin's amazing too. Yeah. Like, just what a good guy. Like, yeah. That's a cool thing about, like, so I've been doing the music video stuff for, I think, 3 years now, probably. But we still use the same crew. Like, it's just all those people.
It's the trust.
Yeah.
It's the trust. It's that, you know, and we've had this conversation where it's like you want to surround yourself by people that you trust, that you're easy to work with. Like, you could look at like a Steadicam op and go, okay, you know what to do, and they get it for you. Yeah, no, it's just that's what it is. It's just the trust. Yeah, you know, again, you know that like a lot of the people around you will work very hard to achieve, because you know the thing is, their name's on it too. Yeah, you know, they want it to look good and be done right. You know, but when was the first time we met?
So that was after the Out of This Car video with Emily. That was Sean. Like I said, Sean was a part of that. Mm-hmm. Sean had a relationship with Mandolin. Yeah, Monchick, and at the time she was managing, or she still is managing Lainey Wilson. Yeah. So I just remember Sean had hit me up about writing a treatment for Things a Man Ought to Know. Mm-hmm. They had, you know, seen 10 treatments or something that, you know, that they had gotten from the label, and they weren't crazy about any of them. Yeah. So Mandolin had hit up Sean because she had seen the Out of This Car video on Instagram. So she hit him up, asked him to write a treatment, and then he called me, was like, hey, they hit me up about this, like, let's do this together. And so me and Sean just back and forth for a few days, like coming up with an idea. Mm-hmm. And we landed on one, wrote the treatment, turned it in, and they were like, let's go. Let's do that. And then, you know, at this time we were like, okay, like we're out of our league right now. Right. We were doing, you know, $7,000 for 2 videos, you know, before now all of a sudden here's a, you know, big budget video from a major label that we've never worked with before. Yeah. So the first person we were like, we got to call Jeff. We knew that you'd been doing that stuff and had your, production company, and
Right.
we just, we needed help.
Yeah.
With that, and that was the first time.
I know, that was the first time we met. Was
First time we
on
met,
Things a Man Ought to Know, Lainey Wilson.
I remember, like the day before that, I was so nervous, like
Yeah.
nervous as all get out. Like I didn't even know if I wanted to show up to the shoot. Like I've never told you this or Sean, but I was seriously considering.
Yeah, you probably shouldn't have told me that.
I was just like, I am out of my league.
Right.
Like there's no way I should be going to shoot this video. Like I just wasn't confident.
And it was a big video.
It was a big
really
video.
was. There was a lot. I mean, we brought in Dylan Schneider
Yep.
to DP it. And I know you guys you never worked with Dylan.
No, I didn't even know
And
who
I don't
Dylan
think,
was.
I don't think Sean had ever even worked with him. But Dylan's out of LA, and Dylan was shooting a lot of stuff. Still shoots a lot of stuff, and here in Nashville. And I remember getting the call from Sean and being like, "Dude, we need a producer. We need a production company. We need to get the team going. All this stuff. There's so many things to this video. It's going to be a long day shoot. It's going to be so many different looks. There's this story. We need an actor. We need this actor. We need this." And I'm just like, oh shit, here we go. And I think we only had like not even 2 weeks to prep it.
Yeah,
I
it
want
wasn't a long
I want to say it
time.
was like a week and a half.
I know. Yeah, it wasn't
Because it was in January. God,
Yeah, it was cold too. Oh man, remember
That was like, what was that? That was 3 years ago, like this week.
That was 2021
Wow.
when that
was
happened.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
I remember the day we shot the video, that song wasn't even top 50 yet.
No, this was. This was
like,
early.
She was like not. I mean, she wasn't even on the map yet.
No.
It
Like
was wild.
yeah, it was. That was her. I think it was her first single. Really, that.
Yeah.
I think it had done well, like on YouTube or streaming or something. So they greenlit a video for it. But
so
that
crazy.
that was that was the first time, like when I was on a set, and I was just like, I didn't feel like I should be there. Like I was terrified.
But you crushed it though, dude.
Yeah,
that's the thing. It's like you went in there and you knew you had to get the job done.
Yeah.
And you crushed it. Working with a DP that you've never worked with before, and how great Dylan is. Dylan was like, he is super, super cool with like new directors, and like he knows what's up. And you had such a great team. We had Daniel on that.
Yes. Yeah. That was the first time working with Daniel.
That's when we met Riley King.
Riley King, yes.
And he came in and played the husband.
Yep.
The criminal.
Yeah, well, I remember we had a lot of friends play roles in that.
Yeah, we had
too.
Rob Welsh played the preacher.
Every
And
video
Kristen,
we put in.
what was Kristen's last? Kristen
Kristen
played the
Bear. Kristen Bear, I think.
she was
Oh my gosh, I remember when she did that scene.
Oh yeah,
we were all just like,
yes,
holy crap!
I
Like
know. They
just completely
killed it. The actors killed it, and then Lainey crushed it too. And it's like for Lainey to like have that as her kind of her first video out of the gate too. You know, I could tell everything was very new for everybody in that camp. And just kind of like, okay, well, here we go. Let's do this. And we shot it at Lainey's house at the time.
Yeah, I remember
pretty much everything.
One of the things I remember too on that shoot is like, because again, like that was the first time, directing like something big.
Yeah,
I remember like I was just very like kind of shied, like, or afraid to kind of like jump in. I remember you coming up to me like once. You might not even remember this, but you came up behind me and Sean, and you were like, "Hey, like you guys, you can go up there and like direct, like, or something." You said something like that, and I was just like, "Oh," I was like, "Okay," like, because I didn't know what I was supposed to be doing yet. Like it was like we were learning as we went.
Yeah,
like, it was still a very new foreign thing for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a fun video.
Yeah, and then the video came out, and then it got nominated.
I got nominated
for CMT award, which is cool.
Celebrated right down
We
the
lost, but
hey,
what did we lose to? Who was that?
I think it was Dylan Scott.
Dylan Scott. Yeah,
Dylan was just popping off right about then.
Man, I love that video. That Lainey video was great. You know, God, now 3 years later, here we are, and she just won Entertainer of the Year last year.
I know, it's crazy.
Absolutely wild.
Yeah.
Within 3 years, But And mandolin, Jesus, she's
she's
taken
just
her.
power player
She
now.
has catapulted Lainey.
Yep.
Lainey works her ass off. That is for sure.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah, it's so. I mean, Lainey is an amazing person too.
Yeah.
Like just super sweet. Like
She's such a sweetheart.
deserves it all.
Yeah. Then what do we do after that? Because I feel like, I mean, this is when you and I started. And if a lot of people don't know about this, you know, it's like you and I, this is where our you know, work relationship had started, was producing, you know, Lainey's video.
Yep.
And then ended up producing some more videos. We'll get into those because those are fun too.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, I think what was next on that?
Yeah,
we
after
did?
that was kind of when, you know, the Core, they were a newer company, newer artists they were signing. So they were kind of getting rolling. It was a lot of like smaller projects that I was working on, a lot of smaller video stuff during, you know, their kind of rise, which the Core now is just on top of the world.
Yeah.
Like took over country.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Yeah.
Those guys are incredible at what they do. But yeah, I remember it was a lot of that. And then once a couple of their artists started really popping off, that was, again, I was getting to the point where, because before I was, you know, if I got a video, I was directing, producing, editing, I was, you know, doing as much as I could to, you know, keep our costs down, and everything. But once those budgets started getting bigger on these newer artists, that was when, all right, like time to hit up Jeff again. And then just from there now, it's just, I feel like everything comes across the table. It's like, all right, who's my first call? It's, you know, Jeff Johnson. Like, here we go.
Well, take it back for a quick second, because I want to know this is just an answer here. After the Lainey video was done, how did you feel after? Because I know you were nervous as hell, didn't want to like be there, and like you did.
Wanted to be there, but I was just terrified.
Because I think that was like a 17-hour shoot. I think it was.
That was I think it was
a long
18 something.
day. That was a really long day.
Originally, we wanted to do two days, but it was just going to be too expensive.
Yeah, exactly. So how did you feel after it was done?
I mean, after, like, that's the thing. It's like, dude, I still, like I've told you this before, like I still get nervous before a video. Like, you know, it doesn't matter how small, how big. I'm always kind of in my own head. That's just, you know, my own anxieties.
Does.
Yeah, like
everybody does. I do.
Yeah,
you know, every director probably
and then
does.
you get in there and you start doing your thing, like that, and you're just like, oh, you know, it's like, you feel good, you feel comfortable, like you do, like I do this every day, like, you know, like I'm good. But after that, like I was very confident. Like once we pulled that off, that was like, okay. At that point, I was like, okay, I can do this.
Right.
Like, you know, I was confident that you could throw anything at me and like we'd figure it out, kind of thing, or and no budget like would scare me or anything like that. Because before, you're like, when you're talking about a label, like, you know, somebody like, you know, me who hadn't done much at that time, and all of a sudden they want to throw $55,000-$60,000 at you, like that's, you know, that's a lot, like to, you know, a lot of pressure. But after that, like I was totally confident. I was like, oh, it's like, you know, as long as everything's like, you got the people, you know, in place to help you, like, you know, that you can delegate.
You just got the support system. That's all you need.
Exactly.
You know, it's like, you know, because we've all come from like doing it on our own.
Yeah.
You know, where we have a camera, we have to light it, we have to do the audio, we have to do this, you know, and it's like once you start building that team around you, it makes you feel more confident. I feel like, you know, like every time I have a team around me, it makes me want to do a better job because everybody around, you know, wants to succeed as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
and as long as like you're surrounding yourself with the right people,
exactly.
Like, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, because there are some people that, you know, have come on set, you know, certain people, and you're just like, it's just not the vibe.
No,
you know, let's move on from that.
Yeah, you live, you learn. Like
exactly.
I mean, I've had my run-in with plenty of those, but I mean, for the most part, 95% of the people that, you know, that we work with is like, those are the people I call, make the first calls to every time. You know, like you want to work with those people. Yeah. You know, the Daniel Verlettes, the Paul Williams, the Tyler Chase. Like I love Tyler.
Oh, Tyler's great, man.
Like just, you know,
he's
all
like
those
coming in with a cowboy hat.
I know. The cowboy boots, cowboy hat, just like with his little film camera. Like, oh, I love that dude, man. Like I'd hire him on every single thing I could.
Yeah, that's so funny. And then what was the after the Lainey Wilson video? How did you feel? I mean, obviously you felt confident about the video and stuff like that, but how did you feel going forward, getting more music videos? Were you just like, come on, let's go, I want to do more of this?
Oh yeah.
And then where did it go after that?
Yeah, from that point, it was just throw me whatever you got.
Yeah.
And that was when, like I said, the Core Entertainment, they had kind of took me in. They were like, all right, this is going to be our guy. And so everything that they ever got with their artists, coming from...
And if anybody doesn't know, the Core has Bailey Zimmerman,
Nate Smith, Dylan James, Josh Ross, right now, Nickelback. They've got some newer artists that they're just starting to work with, some newer trios. But yeah, they plucked those guys out of, off of... They discovered Bailey on TikTok.
Yeah.
I remember meeting Bailey for the first time. Like, I love Bailey. Bailey's like, he's exactly who you think he is. He's a ball of energy,
man.
Yes. And he is exactly who you think he is, or just doesn't, like, he's just... I remember he was just this kind of like bright-eyed kid, like because he got here, I think he was 20, 21.
Wow.
And the first thing the Core always does, like when they sign a new artist, is they're like, all right, let's go get some photos done.
Right.
So I remember Bailey, signed Bailey. He had just released like Small Town Crazy, I think, or something. It blew up on TikTok.
Right.
And they were just like, I just remember Chief and Simon just like, this kid's going to be huge. He was like, you have no idea. I was like, all right, let's go. But we had went and took some initial photos with Bailey. I think it was actually my cousin at the time. He was working with us. He went and did his first photo shoot. And then after that, with Bailey, like we kind of just did all of his early on content. We did some like live stream stuff for Amazon, for Twitch or something like that. And we did a video for him, the Change video. He signed over there at Warner, Nashville. And then now it's just like...
So they brought you on board to do that video?
Yeah.
Warner
so
did. Yeah.
Yeah, that was I think that was the first time I did a video with Warner. Was that Bailey Change video. Again, it was just like low budget, just kind of, it was a performance video.
Right.
Shot it over at Warren.
Oh
Studio.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's just kind of the Core. Like every time they would hire or bring on a new artist, they'd come in initially photos, and then from there it was just kind of like depends like on the artist's trajectory, like what they're doing with with the label, and they're so good at what they do that every single one of these artists has turned out to be
huge,
the next biggest thing in the country.
Yeah.
I mean, you're talking
Bailey
about
and Nate are huge right now.
Yeah, Bailey, one of the biggest artists in the format now.
Yeah.
Had, I think, one of the biggest songs of the year last year.
Yeah.
With Rockin' a Hard Place. Nate, obviously, same thing. Like back-to-back number ones. He's still number one 7 weeks in a row today.
It's crazy. Crazy in a great way.
Yeah.
Crazy in a great way.
It's just a testament to those guys. I mean, they're so good at what they do. Like, I can't say enough good things about, Chief and Simon and Tracy over there at the Core. They're just incredible people. They've always had my back, and they've again put their money where their mouth is, and just kind of shoveled so much stuff my way. Like I owe a lot to them, for where I'm at now. I just love them. But yeah, so that's how we got the start with Bailey.
Yeah,
with Bailey. Nate, same thing, was very first photo shoot we actually did right here at Harlansdale Farm.
Oh, no way.
Was our first photo shoot with Nate.
And we're actually in Franklin, Tennessee right now at Westlight Studios filming this podcast. So
it's literally across the street.
Yeah.
We shot there, and we shot over at the factory next door. That was the first time I met Nate. He had just gotten here or back into town because he had done a stint like back in like late 2000s. He was here for quite a few years before he went back home. But his story's cool too, with how he was found, and he's got an incredible story. With where he came from, with his town, from Paradise, California. But he had just gotten here, shot with him, and Nate was another artist that like really, like kind of latched on and was like loyal to me. And, you know, I've done everything Nate, you know, since day one.
Yeah.
With the exception of some photos. Once he signed his major label deal, like, you know, they've got their photographers that they work with, but all things video has just been, you know, day one, Nate's like, you're my guy. Like, like we're going to do everything. And, you know, I appreciate him so much for that. Like, I love the guy. Yeah, Nate has been like, I mean, one of the biggest reasons why I get to do this, you know, every day and all the time. I don't know how many videos we've done with him now. It started with Sleeve.
I've done 2 with you, with Nate.
Yes.
We did Wreckage and World on Fire.
Wreckage and World on Fire,
Yeah. But then I remember we did that Michael Ray video.
Oh man, the Michael Ray video. Oh my gosh. That was an experience.
But I did that. I didn't produce that one. I actually shot.
You were shooting with us.
I was shooting on that one. I'll never forget the stories of that video.
Oh my gosh. That was hey, we got through it.
We did get through it. It was funny because where was it? That was what was the name of that place again?
Nashville Palace.
Nashville Palace, that's right. And it was Michael Ray, Kid Rock, Billy Gibbons,
and Lee Bryce, and Tim Montana. And it was that song. What was the name of the song again? Higher Education.
That's right. I remember you came to me and you're like, dude, we're going to do this video. It's going to be a performance video. Kid Rock's going to be in it. We're going to do these scenes and blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And I think that was me, you, Sam, Daniel. Mm-hmm. Who else was on that?
I think, did we have Larkin there too? Weren't we running dual Steadicams?
Were we? I don't know. I thought it was just Daniel for some reason.
Yeah, it's hard enough to shoot a music video in 15 hours.
Yeah.
That one we had to shoot the music video, a live stream.
Yes, that's right.
Event,
that's right. I totally forgot about the live stream.
And a Jimmy Kimmel performance in 3 hours.
Yeah.
And so I just remember like that was a nightmare to put together.
I remember the story about when we were shooting the performance for the music video.
Yeah.
And we had to shoot before we brought the crowd in. We shot all the tight stuff.
Yeah.
So it's that way we could, you know, because music video magic, you know, you gotta do different things to make things work. So we couldn't have the crowd in, so we could actually film the performance, make it look like, you know, they were performing in front of a crowd. So we did all the tight stuff, and it was like Kid Rock, Lee Bryce, Tim Montana, Billy Gibbons in the middle, and Michael Ray doing his thing. And I'll never forget. And then like we shot everything. We had all the close-up stuff of Kid Rock. And then we went back after we'd shot all the pool scene stuff, you know, and all the bar scene stuff. And all of a sudden, Kid Rock was gone.
Yeah, I remember
he wasn't
did that
even
take
on the stage
where he was supposed to make because he came in at a certain time.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember we were in the middle of that take, and then Kid Rock just never came on stage.
He just never came on stage. And I remember, I think it was like the second go around. I'm like, wait a second, where's Kid Rock at? But I guess that was
just
the
had
end
to
of his
roll.
day.
I think the only thing I heard it was like, "Hey, Kid Rock's done. He's
done.
He's done what he wants to do." And I was like,
but thank God we got the tight shots, because when you watch that video back and you really if you really look, you'll notice that he's not on the stage in the wide.
Yeah,
crowd
I think
shots.
there was like a couple wide shots of him, but I had to pull them from
the live stream.
Not the live stream, the Jimmy Kimmel. Oh, because remember we had to to shoot dude. I remember that schedule was just all over the place that day.
Yeah.
But yeah, we shot had to shoot the Jimmy Kimmel performance in the middle of it, but that was like live.
Yeah.
So it didn't match up perfectly with the recorded version that we were cutting the video to track.
Yeah.
So I remember that was a nightmare to edit too. Yeah. But I had to take what I could get.
That was actually a really fun shoot though. At the end of the day,
everything worked.
It worked.
Like we were able to pull it all off in the 3 hours. We got everything we needed. The live stream went off without a hitch. Excuse me. But yeah, I remember at the end of the day, like just thinking like, okay, we did that. Like it was a lot. That was that one too. Like, cause you were just there shooting. You were
I was just shooting
I think the main or the center cam.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
and then I got up on stage at one point too, because we were shooting crowd stuff from up on the stage. Yeah.
Man, that was a fun time. That was during COVID too. Like that, I remember that was a lot of, or not during like the COVID, but it was still when there was like a lot of restrictions.
Safety, yeah.
I remember like just having that or trying to get that to go off without a hitch was a lot.
Yeah.
Like, cause we had to bring in however many people.
We were doing Jimmy Kimmel. It was still live stream stuff at that point.
Yeah, live stream. We had to have the big crowd in there. It was a lot to.
Yeah.
It was a lot to put together. But man, I love how that. I mean,
it
the experience that it turned out.
I still there's been a couple times where I've watched that video since then. I'm just like, it's so great because you could watch our videos that we've done together and just be like, oh, there was that memory and that memory, and that's what happened there. You know? But that whole thing where you just can't see Kid Rock in some of the live shots is just dying, man.
It's funny, yeah. Now everybody's gonna know that.
I know.
Look for it, but
little Easter egg there,
Yeah.
And then we did. What else did we do? We did after that. We did Wreckage this past year.
Wreckage we've done Wreckage with Nate. World on Fire. We did Never Leave with Bailey.
Oh yeah, Never Leave. We did that one back in. When was that? That was September.
I think that was last year, all right?
It was September of 22.
That was a fun one. That was 2 days.
Yeah.
We really needed 3.
Yeah.
To shoot that, but
yeah.
we got it done in 2. And Bailey just, gosh,
oh
man,
my God, he crushed that video.
Workhorse too. Like that kid is like works harder than anybody I know.
Yeah.
And when it's time to go, like he's locked in.
Yeah.
Love that about Bailey.
So that video, Never Leave, for Bailey, what was that? How did that concept come about? Was that something that you and Bailey worked out, or was that something that came out of your head?
That was, yeah. Bailey is very he's very involved in all of his creative stuff. Mm-hmm. So that was him and I went and had lunch one day, I think. Mm-hmm. We just went and grabbed a burger, just kind of talked about it. Yeah. He told me he wanted something kind of boxing. Yeah. And I remember at the time, I think it was Justin Bieber had like a boxing video come out. Anyone or that. There was he had just dropped that record, or Justice, that record, but he had just dropped a music video about boxing. So we pivoted to more of like underground, like bare knuckle or like MMA kind of style, which was cool because that was more fun.
It was raw.
That gritty, like grimy kind of look. Like that stuff's fun to shoot. Yeah. And so I remember him and I had just come up with that concept, and we got him with the guy who he fought in that video is actually a boxing instructor over at Tidal here in town. So I remember we got him together, and we had our Jaron Bray, I think, was doing the stunt coordination for all that. Came up, we went and met up one day and came up with all the fight moves. They rehearsed it kind of a little bit here and there, and then we threw it all together and shot that scene. But yeah, Bailey's just nuts. I like who do we have do makeup on that one? It was
Katrina Brooks.
Katrina, I'm crushed that.
Dude,
too.
She killed it, man. She was perfect for that.
Like that, I just remember seeing like Bailey. I was like, this looks like he actually
he's got his ass
his ass beat. Exactly. Like I was like, okay. Yeah. But yeah, that was a fun one. We did Never Leave. Do we do any other Baileys?
No, that's the only Bailey one I've done with you.
Oh yeah,
yeah. But Bailey was great in that, and it's funny because going back to kind of the making of that music video, it's like there was so much kind of stunt, like you said, stunt coordination in that, and we had to be extremely careful, especially being down in that Warren Paint basement with breathing all that stuff in and like, being down there. Remember that?
That's one thing about Warren. It's like you don't breathe right for 2 or 3 days when you get home.
Exactly.
That was where Bailey had issues with that too.
Yeah.
Like I think at one point he was like, "We can't shoot here anymore."
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, especially for a vocalist, man, that's gonna kill your throat.
Yeah.
But like, I remember there was a lot of moments of where the stunt coordinator had to come in right before the scene was shot just so they could coordinate where the fake punch is going to go, when he's going to hit the wall, when he's going to hit the ground, and how he's going to spit at the camera. And there was a lot of choreography basically on that.
Yeah, we could only shoot one way, I remember too.
Yeah.
Like, so the extras, we had to
shift them.
Yeah, we had to shift them back and forth, like both sides, because we couldn't have that many people down there.
Yeah, exactly.
That was, and we were already short on time.
Because that's a Warren rule. Yeah. That we can't have that many people down there. Yeah.
Yep.
Because I remember I had to keep counting. Like, I forget what the number is, but I remember I had to keep counting, like, only like 15 people could be down there or something.
Yeah, that was tough. And
including the crew.
It was like, I think we had allotted like over 2 hours to shoot that scene. Yeah. And we had 30 minutes, I remember. Yeah. And I remember it was like, I blacked out during that. I mean, when you get into that mode, when you just got to get it done. Yeah. Like I don't have a lot of memory of shooting that scene,
right?
But because I just remember it was just, and a lot of that happens a lot on set.
Yeah,
it's
that's like why I'm there. I'm there for you.
Yeah, I know. Like before that, man. Like when you're doing that lower budget stuff and you're doing it all on your own, it's like, you don't have those people to fall back on. It's like I'm staring off into space, like just like, oh my God, just trying to get through it.
It's funny. I remember we had your trailer on that shoot. That was his trailer.
Oh yeah, that Bailey stayed in.
Yeah, that was Dylan's. Isn't that wild?
That's right.
I know. We should take that trailer up north to Canada. It's a thought.
Oh yeah. Oh, to Boots.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Have a little office up there. So then, did you ever go on the road with Bailey at all?
Never went on the road with Bailey. No.
Right.
When he was first getting started on the road too, like we were busy, like with in-town stuff. Like that was when he was popping off, and Nate was popping off. Like Whiskey on You was going.
Yeah. That was a number one, right? Whiskey on You.
Whiskey on You.
That was his first number one.
First number one. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I just remember that year was like, there was like a year and a half period that's just like a total blur. Yeah. After kind of everything started going, because I mean, nobody, like, we all knew Bailey was going to be a star. Yeah. But nobody could have predicted it was going to happen like it did. Yeah. I mean, it was like a shot out of a rocket. Yeah. It was just like one day, all of a sudden, I just remember, there was one moment where I was just like, because like when you're in Nashville, you're in like a bubble. Like like we know all these people, like we're like, oh, like, they're doing well out, but we never see like kind of the outside perspective. Yeah. It's very much like, you're working with them every day. Like, you're like, oh yeah, you can see the streaming numbers and everything. But like once you get outside of that, then it's like you kind of see it. Yeah. I remember I was, I think the first time I saw it was like Bailey was, his SUV after he had did a performance like in, I think he was after Riverfront for CMA Fest. Dylan James and I had went and we had watched his show, and then we went over to Cafe Intermezzo downtown just to have a dinner afterwards. And I remember we were just sitting there, and they've got these big windows there at the restaurant, and we were just sitting there, and I remember seeing this black SUV like stopped at the stoplight, and then just like people swarming.
No way.
And I was like, what's going on over there?
In Nashville.
Yeah, in Nashville.
That's wild. And you don't see that here.
Yeah, no. Yeah. Never. And sure enough, it's Bailey in the SUV, like just people coming up off the street, and I was just like, it was just kind of one of those moments you're like, dang, like this kid's big. Right. Because I know him as this just ball energy, this kid, like just worked with since pretty much day one when he got here. to now all of a sudden he's one of the biggest superstars in the world.
Yeah.
You know, it's just crazy. Like you don't see it when you're like I said, when you're living here.
Yeah.
When you're in the Nashville bubble, like you don't see it happen as quick as, same thing with like Lainey.
Yeah.
Like I had no idea. Like Lainey,
I don't think any of us had any idea that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And it did. And it's, like you said, it's like Bailey, Lainey, you know, Nate, Luke Combs, Morgan Wallen, like all these people just like feel like in the last 5 years, there's been like a handful of artists that have just taken off fast.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like kind of that Nashville 10-year town quote is kind of starting to go away a little bit.
It's getting a little shorter, yeah.
It's getting a little shorter.
It was 10 years for me. It took damn near 10 years to get anything going.
Yeah.
But yeah, and you start hearing, like, I remember too, is like you talk to people from like back home or friends, and you know they start mentioning those artists, you know, and everything, and it's like, you know, like, oh, these are the people that you guys are listening to every day. It's like it's a little bit of perspective.
Yeah. I feel like I always see it in when I'm doing like a festival with an artist, and like say like a Bailey is opening or something, and you see it in the crowd.
Yeah.
You see the sing-alongs happening. You see everybody knowing every single word. That is like the answer right there of like how they're doing. If that whole crowd is singing along to a Bailey song, he's doing something right.
Yeah.
You know, that's like with some of the shows that I've done with Megan Maroney. You know, it's like I go out there and I'm on stage and I'm shooting some stuff, and every single person in that crowd, 10,000, 12,000 people, are singing back every single lyric to her songs. And she's only been around for what? Just over
Megan
a year?
was another one that just like
year
out
and a
of
half.
out of nowhere.
Exactly. Just out of nowhere. You know, first single, #1. Crazy.
That was like with Bailey. Like you cross paths with artists that you've worked with all the time when you're on the road.
Yeah.
I was with Nate this past year, doing a lot of road stuff for the Thomas Rhett tour, and then for a few Morgan Wallen dates. But Bailey was headlining a festival out in South Carolina. I think it was this fall. And what you're talking about, like the songs, it's like you see him play, like, and again, it's like, you know, like I know Bailey, you know the way he is, like here, like, you know, that we interact whenever I see him and everything. Like you don't look at them as like these, you know, these crazy, you know, superstars. They're just like, you know, there's these normal people that you like talk to every day. And then he played Rockin' a Hard Place. And that was like every song, like the crowd's screaming, you know, loving him. Yeah. But it's like a freaking vacuum when he starts playing that song. Yeah. And it's like, you like watch it and people are like, you can't even hear him. You can't hear him. You can't hear the band.
It's so amazing.
Like you hear like those songs.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that really make you like just sit back and you're like, holy crap, like what is going on right now? And that happens every time he plays Rockin' a Hard Place. Yeah. I've seen him play it a few times now where we've, you know, crossed paths, and it's nuts to see. Yeah. You know, like where those, or another cool one was I was out with Nate, and Nate was opening for Morgan Wallen. And Bailey was second of 3. And he sang Rockin' a Hard Place in Austin, and hearing them sing that song, that line, that's when I lost at midnight in Austin. That was so cool to see that whole arena, because we were at Moody Center, I think. Yeah. Hearing the whole arena sing that line like louder than any other line.
Unreal.
Yeah, really cool experience.
It's so fun to see, like, you know, the people that we work with. I mean, we spend so much time with them just as normal people. Yeah. You know, and they get up on stage and they go into their element and what they were born to do. Yeah. And to see that like transition from just being a normal person and then getting up on stage and then absolutely just flooring the crowd, you know, is such a, if music doesn't move you, then you shouldn't be at a concert or you shouldn't listen to it. But those are the moments that when you watch and you're so proud of like the people that you work with, like, they're living their dream. You're seeing it happen in real time right now. That nothing is comparable to that.
Yeah.
There's just something about that is just so deep, man. You know?
And I mean, you like what we do is it's so personable.
Yeah.
Like that job, like of having to have a camera in somebody's face all the time. Like you've got to know, like that's so nuanced.
Yeah.
But like you get to know these people incredibly well. Like I'm like the people I work with, you know, for the most part, a lot of them I've become really good friends with them.
Yeah.
Nate Smith is one. Like since day one, like he's that guy that I've done so much work with him, so many videos. It's just like me and him became really, really close friends.
Yeah.
And getting to watch that like up close, like, because before I wasn't with him on the road for a lot of like his like that first year and a half when he was starting to pop off with the Whiskey on You and everything.
Right.
Like again, like you're back home, you're here in this Nashville bubble. But I just remember like when I started and went out on the road with him this past summer, just seeing everything, like whenever you see like how everything translates to the rest of the world or the rest of the country, is just nuts. They're a completely different person. Yeah. You know, like not a bad way.
Yeah.
You know, they're just like, it's two different worlds.
Yeah.
And like getting to see that with Nate, like, cause Nate this year has really been, you know, a big year for Nate. Like
I think this was definitely his
breakout
year. Yeah, for sure.
I mean, and now he's going to be on the biggest tour of 2024. He's opening for Morgan Wallen. Like he's well on his way. And like, I mean, dude's amazing. Yeah. Amazing guy.
Speaking of Nate, let's talk a little bit about those music videos we did.
Yes, let's do it.
Wreckage was cool because what I loved about that is when you came to me and you're like, dude, we got another video. And he goes, I want you to produce it. And I'm like, all right. And then you said, we're going to focus around baseball. And I'm like, yes.
I know.
Because I'm a big baseball fan.
Oh, same. Like,
I know.
Grow up.
You
get to grow up watching Griffey and a Kingdom. Like, I was all like, that's what I wanted to do my whole life. I was like, I want to be a baseball player. Yeah. And then I picked up a guitar. Right. You know, kind of changed that.
That's the same thing with me.
Yeah. Baseball is my first love. But getting the opportunity, like,
to do a baseball video.
That was fun. Because I remember when we were talking about it, like, they had come up with some ideas or whatnot. But I remember we went into, I went into the Live Nation offices, or the Core Entertainment's office, and it was just me, Chief, Simon, Tracy, and Nate in a room, and we were like, all right, let's figure this out. Like, what do we want to do? I think Tracy might have brought up the baseball idea, if I'm not mistaken. I might get that wrong. But because we were talking about like football, you know, it's like, but football, it's like so overdone. I feel like
football's been done a lot.
Yeah. So we were like, how can we do this? And I think we were talking about like, because we wanted, the song was a very emotional kind of like heart-wrenching, like hit you in the gut kind of song, like Wreckage. And I remember we were trying to find we were trying to figure out the way to like really like give him that punch, that emotion in it. Like we went back, was like, oh, how does he get hurt? Does he get in a car accident? We're like, right, whatever. Like that's so overdone too. Like in music videos, we're like, how do we do this? The baseball idea came up. Yeah, and then I was like, let's like tear his ACL. Right. Like, let's do that.
And it's like, what you don't think about that as like the first thing in a country music video is a baseball player tearing their ACL.
No, but that's we had to figure out, we're like, okay, if this guy is really like, if he's, you know, spiraling and into a drinking problem and everything, it's like, what's something that's going to have the gravity of like what's going to make somebody turn into that? Yeah. And obviously if you lose everything you ever worked for with your knee in baseball, like that's a big deal. So that was kind of why we went that route. Yeah. But we sat in there, we hashed it out, figured out that baseball idea. I mean, that was the most excited I've been to shoot a video for sure. And then we getting to shoot it over at Vanderbilt's baseball field. Like that was really cool.
And then we had to bring in Riley King. That was our kind of reunion from Lainey Wilson's video. We brought him in to play the pitcher in the beginning. Yeah. His little quick cameo appearance.
And he had baseball background. I think he played Memphis?
Yeah, I think so.
College ball, Memphis.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it was easy. Like
Yeah.
that was the thing too. Like one thing, like a pet peeve of mine, like for any time I watch a movie, is when athletes, like when you can tell they've never done, like or they've never thrown a football, or they've never hit a baseball, or they've never shot a basketball. Like that's just like a kind of a pet peeve of mine. So having somebody that like that knew how to play baseball was important, especially for the pitcher, and then for Kyle. Kyle came in and crushed
that.
So
he was so good.
Yeah, he was good. He had that kind of that All-American look that we needed, and then tons of baseball experience in his background. Then we
had to have Rob Welch again
as a scout. Yeah. So for people who don't know, Rob,
he's a buddy of mine. He's helped me out with so many music videos. He's like, he'll move a light, he'll move a camera, he'll PA or whatever. But I've put him in so many videos. There's so many cameos of Rob, and we put Rob in the Lainey Wilson video. He played the preacher. But it's like a split second of Rob at the very beginning.
You gotta he might be the reason for all the success.
I'm telling you, he may be the secret sauce, dude.
Yeah, he's the common denominator.
Right. So he played the scout in the stands. He's the one writing the notes on the paper in the video.
Always got to find a spot for Rob.
And he plays the janitor in the I'm Not Pretty music video.
That's right. Yep.
It's pretty funny. But that video, dude, that turned out the ending of that with the anger and him busting, all the trophies and stuff like that. I'll never forget standing there in the corner while that was being filmed, and I was just going, holy shit. This is crazy. That whole room was silent.
Yeah, you could hear. I remember you could hear a pin drop. Like nobody was expecting it.
Yeah.
And like Kyle just absolutely crushed it, ran with it.
Yeah.
Like told him exactly what to do, and it was just like we shot it once, I think, right?
Yeah, it was it had to be just once.
Yeah, I mean,
because everything was getting destroyed.
Yeah, but he was into it. Like I just remember, he crushed that. I couldn't have been happier with his performance that whole day. Like he was just on it.
Yeah. Well, and it's cool with like what Kyle did, and obviously the sign of a good actor, is just like they dive into and they stay in that role for the day.
Yeah.
It's like I felt like he was just always, every time we cut, he was just kind of staying in that character in a way, just kind of walking around.
You don't always get that in this town.
Not at all.
Because a lot of it's like, like you hire a model to be an actor.
Yeah.
It's tough to find those kind of people like Kyle, Riley is another one that was great. Like Kristen, like I couldn't believe like we got Kristen out of that on the Lainey one, but it's tough. It's tough to find those actors out here. It's getting better in Nashville, like as the town grows. And
I feel like there was a time where you would see almost like the same girl in a music video
and everything.
And it was just, they started kind of getting typecast, in Nashville as being like the music video model. It's like, I try to stay away from that. Whenever I do a video, it's like, I want to get somebody new, somebody fresh that you just haven't seen before.
Yeah.
Somebody like Kyle, that was great, but that video, man, that turned out.
I love Wreckage. Awesome. That's my favorite one.
And what a song too, man. I really wish that could have been a single.
I know.
God.
It was supposed to be.
Yeah.
That was the song I think that was planned to be a single for a long time.
Yeah.
And then World on Fire.
They flipped it. They flipped it and went to World on Fire.
Which
we shot that video.
Clearly the right decision. 7 Weeks #1 right now. It's like that's the song that needed to be out there.
Somebody
in the world.
knew something. But that was a fun video too, because like we were able to another video that I produced and you directed, and we shot that down at Worldwide Stages in Spring Hill.
Yeah.
And took advantage of their big, huge black steel room, and did that. And we brought in what was the company that we brought
Strictly
in?
Effects,
Strictly
right?
Effects. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time getting to play with fire.
Yeah.
That was
for the perfect song.
I know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
But the funny thing is, I remember when you came to me with that, and you're like, it's just something a little more simple, a little more like performance video, but we had to do it with fire.
Yeah.
Obviously because of the song, but so we brought in Strictly Effects, and they brought in their pyro team, and they came in and set up and did the whole thing and the performance thing, and you had the tricks of like ramping it up and slowing it down, in camera, not in edit, but like in camera, where it like the song sped up or slowed down.
So we had Nate and his band. We had cues in those moments that those certain parts of the song where the song would speed up double time.
Yeah.
So Nate was sitting there, they were singing and playing World on Fire, in its standard BPM, and then all of a sudden it was double time.
Yeah.
Immediately. You had to do that in order to get the effect, because we wanted one shot.
Yeah.
Obviously, like, it's cool to do those effects, like, and cut in between, but like seeing it happen, like, it's like wait a second,
real.
Everything went slow-mo and he's still singing, in time.
Yeah.
That was a cool thing
fun trick
to experiment with.
Yeah. That was really cool. And man, what a wild ride that song has had for Nate.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember the song went number one right before the holiday, before the New Year, and then it dropped down, and then it went back up, and we're filming this podcast. Today is actually the last day of January. I don't know when this podcast is going to air, but as of right now, that song is still number one, and we're at the end of January.
Yeah.
It's like it has taken the entire month of January.
Yeah,
that's crazy for media-based charts.
Yeah, songs don't normally do that anymore.
They don't.
In the U.S., at least. It's hard to get them to go number one that long.
I mean, and it's funny because it's like you always kind of see whatever song hits number one, over the holiday when the charts freeze, and then it's automatically like a 2-week number one.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay, cool. Well, Nate's going to get a 2-week number one, but then it dropped, and then it went back up, and I'm like, oh my God, it's like every single week in January it's been number one.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's nuts. That's one of the coolest things about this job, for me, is getting to hear all the songs like way before they're ever a thing.
Yeah.
Like, because a lot of, like, whenever it doesn't work like that, obviously, everywhere. Like, you'll get solicited for a treatment and you hear the song. Like, most of the times it's out. But whenever like, when you have the relationships with the artist, when you're working with them early on, like, Nate and I, are great friends. Mm-hmm. So when he's got, songs that he loves, he'll send them to me early on. Like, he'll send them to me sometimes a day after he's written them.
Mm-hmm.
He's got like a work tape on his phone. So like hearing these songs, like, from
in
them,
advance.
like a year before, like I'm driving around a lot of times and I'm bumping Bailey and Nate songs way before they ever see the light of day.
Yeah.
Like, I love that part.
Yeah.
It's just so cool getting to see the songs like from the inception.
Yeah.
And then 2 years later, sometimes you're shooting a video for them.
Yeah. It's wild because that's one of a story that I had is with Chris Young, and he played me at the end of a bar, like right after he cut it. It was like a rough mix, and I was at his house doing liners, video liners, and he's like, "Dude, you got to hear this." And I was like, "Holy shit, that is a hit. That's a smash!" Like him and Mitchell Tenpenny.
Yeah.
And then here we are, 5 months later, shooting a music video for it. It's like, and then it became a number one for them. Those are the cool things. You kind of get to hear the stuff before, beforehand, and then you get to kind of get it like a little bit of an advanced idea. For a treatment.
Like me, Nate and I have come up with music videos off of work tapes,
right?
Not knowing that if the song was even going to be anything, one day. But we've sat there and we've come up with ideas, that. Like for his next single coming up, we did that. Like he played me the day one demo, and we sat there in the back of his bus and came up with an entire treatment.
That's
for the video.
Yeah,
just in 20-30 minutes.
So it's so
came with
amazing.
idea. Maybe we'll get to shoot it one day.
Right.
But yeah, like those are the really cool like moments.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, so let's do a little gear chat, man. What's your camera choice? What do you use on the road?
On the road, Sony A7R5 is what I've been using. Mainly because I don't like switching between cameras.
Right.
I like just having one that I can go with.
When you say switching between cameras, is it just like brands or just like a camera?
No, just a camera.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, I love the A7S3.
Yeah.
For video.
Mm-hmm.
But I whenever I'm on the road, I'm really into high quality photos.
Yeah.
And the A7S3 is just like, you just can't get it with the, that sensor.
Yeah.
It's just not enough. Like I like a high megapixel
Yeah.
camera for all my photos.
Yeah.
So A7R5, I mean, it hasn't been out long. It's been, I think it came out, middle of this past year,
Gotcha.
2023.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I love it just because the photo, it had 8K.
Yeah.
That was another big thing. It was the first time I was getting to shoot 8K, which is so nice to have now that everything's vertical.
Yeah.
Being able to
Just
shoot
crop in.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like I can shoot, because like a lot of the times, like I'd shoot 4K, I'd tip my camera to the side,
Yeah.
and shoot vertical.
Yeah.
But like a lot of that stuff you need, like all that stuff you're capturing on the road, like you need like wide 16:9 like shots of that stuff.
Exactly.
Like you need it. Like you don't know what that stuff's going to get used for one day. So like it's better to not shoot vertical whenever you can. So having the 8K is really big on that, because I can punch in vertically. Because like with Nate especially, a lot of his stuff was, he had his rise on TikTok. So he's very social media oriented artist. Not all of them are. It's something that it's kind of still a newer thing over the past couple of years, like artists coming off of those platforms. Yeah. So a lot of his content needs to be vertical.
Yeah.
Like we shoot with that in mind. So the 8K really helped out with that. But then again, having the big sensor for the photos was a big thing. And I love just like the color of Sony. Like for some reason, like the control I've got with that, like I know you're a Canon guy. We have this conversation all the time. But yeah, there's just something about their color science that I tend to gravitate to.
Yeah. Well, and it's important too. I mean, it's like, we do kind of live in a vertical world right now, but it's like, I don't think we're ever going to have vertical movie screens.
No.
That ain't going to happen.
No.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't happen. Knock on wood, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
But it's like, we have to always shoot kind of horizontal stuff, to have for archives. Yeah. Because you never know. It's like it could be for documentary purposes later on, and you want it to fit that kind of mold of, what real filmmaking is, in that widescreen format. So it's like to have that 8K type of sensor and be able to chip away at a vertical inside of that, that's very smart.
It's huge,
to do.
Huge help.
Huge help. So there's one question I've been asking everybody on this podcast. So if you went out on the road for a weekend, you did 3 shows on the weekend, and you were only allowed one camera and one lens the entire time, what would it be?
You had to do both, photo and video?
You had to do both. Well, because you do both, so you have to do,
one camera
and one lens.
I would probably do an A7S3. Because I can still make the photos like decent, but like I'd want great video.
Right.
Like the sensor on that, the low light sensor is just, I mean, it's nuts as far as, having a handheld camera or whatever. Like that's the way to go for me. And then probably a 24-70 G Master.
Nice.
Like the 24-70 is, I mean, that I shot 99% of everything I've done is on a 24-70.
Yeah.
Just a 2.8.
And it's very versatile too on the road.
Yeah. I mean, you need it. Like
you have to. Yeah. But it's wild because every answer's been different.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm taking the 24-70 G Master for sure.
I would do the Canon R5 with the 24-70.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be my choice.
It's like, especially when you're shooting shows, it's like a lot of times you just don't have time to switch lenses.
Yeah.
Especially when you're working with artists
that don't have that a lot of time on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
if you got like 30 minutes.
It's different. You're with the headliner.
Yeah.
Like you've got 75, 90 minutes. Like you have all the time in the world to get your shots.
Yeah.
Like when they're opening, they're like a 1st to 3. Like Nate opened the Thomas Rhett tour this year over the summer, and that it just feels like you are running, like sprinting. I've got 20 minutes.
Yeah, to get every angle,
4 or 5 songs,
every focal length, everything. Yeah.
So it's tough to work on different lenses. I did just because I wanted a lot of prime stuff, but.
There's been a lot of answers of like a camera with a prime lens, like a 51.2, somebody said.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah. And there was like, what was some other ones? Like a Canon R5 with the 24, a 16 to 35 wide.
16 to 35.
That was Rachel.
Oh, yeah. She does a lot of the wide. I remember she'd have the super wide shots.
Yeah.
She's really, really good at that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I would always be jealous of those shots. Like when she would be shooting those at like Carly. Yeah. Like Carly walking across stage.
Yeah. She said, I really like that lens because it makes her legs longer.
Yes.
You know?
Literally. It looks so just stoic.
Right.
Like when they're walking across the stage with those. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of the things I remember about Rachel's style. It's just the big wide shots.
With a little wrap up here, we're almost at 2 hours, man.
Wow, that doesn't
Isn't that
feel
crazy?
Like it. I was like, I hope I can do 45 minutes. And honestly, I was thinking that.
So if you were to give any advice to like people that are wanting to get into what we do, what would you give them? What would you say to them?
I mean, I'd say go out, shoot as much. Like if you're trying to do it in music, or if you're in Nashville or anything, LA, these places, it's like get in with artists early. That I think that was the biggest thing for me was like a lot of how it goes here in Nashville is like you come up with like Nashville. Say this a lot is it's like very cliquey. It's a lot like high school.
Yeah.
In this industry in music and now here in photo and video, but like you've got to like meet those people early on. You got to be their people early on.
Yeah.
And for the most part, they stick by you.
Yeah.
But the biggest thing I would say is get in as early and as often as you can. Like go to these writers rounds, go to these showcases, and just be cool. Just be friends, be a good hang is one of the most important parts of the job.
Yeah.
I feel like is being a good hang, just being someone that's cool to be around. That's a lot of it because like these artists, they're going to pick the people that they want to be around more than over, somebody who's got the absolute best skills.
Yeah.
So get in early with artists, like really, like when I was doing it, I mean, I was shooting as much as I could, I would like shoot for free, kind of those things. It's not the best way to go about it, all the time, but,
you gotta get your feet wet though.
Yeah, I got to. And I was kind of coming in at a time where it was really just, it hadn't popped. It was just about to pop. Like right before COVID, like we said, like content was a thing, but it wasn't like, it was more of a luxury thing where now it's like, you got to have it.
Yeah.
It's more important than, having a band member a lot of times.
Yeah.
I've seen that with artists too, as crew members will, they'll take a photographer over, having a monitor guy, or somebody that they need.
Yep.
So, just get in with be friends with artists, like I said, just early on, like it's easier, like shoot everything you can with them, shoot their TikToks, shoot their photos, do acoustic videos.
I always say that it's like, your work is going to get you in there. Your relationships are going to keep you there.
Yeah, because it's incredibly difficult to get in to like a label just out of the blue. Like they're not just out there just like looking for new director talent. Like the way I got in was I knew the artists and they wanted me to, work with them when they got their deal.
Yeah.
They signed their record with their record labels, and then it was like, oh, hey, we've got a guy.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it worked. The road thing, it was networking just throughout all the years that I'd been in town. People were recommending, me for different little things. But as far as like, if you're looking to shoot, bigger productions or shoot in the music video world and everything, like you've got to be in with those guys early on, or you got to find people who are going to, champion you.
Yeah. It's a lot of networking.
It really is.
And be present.
Present.
You got to be present for sure.
Got to be present to win for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's just like, just be fun. Be a good person.
Exactly.
Be a good hang.
Don't be an asshole.
Don't be an asshole. Like if you're an asshole, like that's the quickest way to get.
That's the quickest way out.
Yeah. It's because people don't really give you more than.
Yeah.
Like if you're that way, it's like you get like one shot.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. It's. But again, if you're just not that way, then it's that's how it is. Like you don't have to. Just. If you're having to work at not being an asshole, then this might not be the best place for you anyways. Just, but yeah, that's probably what I'd say. That's usually what I tell anybody who's looking for advice or trying to break in is get with people early.
Yeah.
Stay with them often. Do everything you can for them.
I agree.
And then for the most part, like most of them want you to win with them.
Yeah, it's true.
When they get there.
Totally agree.
Yeah.
Well, dude,
This was fun.
You made it through, dude.
I did.
2 hours.
It's crazy. Was that one of the longest?
It was was almost one of the longest. Looking at the timer over there, but dude, thank you for joining me, man. Seriously,
yes. Thank you for having me.
We've been friends for 3 years, and let's just keep going, brother.
Oh yeah,
seriously,
absolutely.
Love you, dog.
Love you, brother. That's a wrap.